Hi friends. Okay, so videos are not really my thing, but there have been just a multitude of people that have started to talk about sourdough and are curious about it, and so I just figured I would make a video of what I know and what I do, kind of some of the things that I use, and just maybe try and help a little bit. So this will probably be a little bit long, but I'm thinking what I'll probably do is I'll probably just upload it to YouTube and then maybe just share a link to people who are curious about it. I'll try as I go. I'm gonna make a loaf of bread, or technically it's gonna make 3, but my starter is ready, but I'm gonna explain that. And then if you want some starter, let me know. Hey babes, don't pull on that, okay? Eleanor's here. Do you want to say hi? Mom's gonna make a video for our friends about bread. Nobody, Mommy's just making a video for our friends because they're curious about sourdough and Mommy makes sourdough bread. Do you want to be in the video too? Anyway, so let's get started. So first, this is what is most important. This is your sourdough starter. I feed mine einkorn and rye, but I have also done this with just regular all-purpose flour from the start. I can easily show you how to make your own starter. I can show you how to feed and keep and take care of like a remnant of my starter. I can show you how to revive a starter from old. Once you kind of understand the basics of it, it's really not that hard, and you kind of can't screw it up. Like you can, but it's never something that you can just never recover from. So anyway, I'm gonna try to show you. So this is the line where it started. Okay, this is where I started it, and it has at least doubled. It was actually up here just a few minutes ago. It was kind of starting to go down. And so this is the point where you want to bake with it. So I need to use it now. You can see, maybe, I can't tell if this is focusing or not, but it's like thick and bubbly, and there's lots of bubbles on the side. Can you see that? I have other pictures of starters that I'll try to add and figure out how to do that. Thank you, babe. And that'll probably help you. But anyway, so this is what your healthy starter should look like. It has doubled in size within 6 to 12 hours is your goal. What? Mom's gonna make bread, babes. Uh-oh. Baby Sissy's coming unglued. We should go get her. Okay, so supplies. 1, this is anchor hockey. I also have a big like Pyrex bowl. If you can see this. I have what I like the difference, this is just a personal preference. Whoa. This is taller walls. So for me, this one is a lot easier to mix in with when you have 1,000 grams of flour, because it doesn't poof your flour out of the bowl. So I like these better than I like Pyrex. This is like old Pyrex style. Okay, so all the supplies that you need, you can see. Kitchen scale. So many people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to cook if I have to use a scale. I'm telling you, this makes a huge difference in how sourdough turns out. It is worth the 10 bucks on the internet. I can send you the link on Amazon. Just get a cheap one, 10 bucks. Okay, kitchen scale. Sourdough starter, we already talked about that. Flour, this is all purpose. Now I bake with all purpose for the most part. I do also have a wheat blend that I've used, but for the most part I bake with all purpose just because the results are, what's the word I'm looking for? Predictable. Salt, honey, olive oil. What? No, I don't need crackers, baby. We're not having crackers right now, okay? There's just too many in one sleeve and Daddy's not here to eat the rest of them. So, okay, I guess that's another caveat. I don't bake the crusty boules, like the round fancy. Hey, don't do that, please. Please don't hang on that, okay? No, thank you. I don't bake the round crusty boules. I have. They're fun to do, but they don't work for my family. So I make sourdough sandwich bread, which requires a little bit of enrichment, hence the honey and the oil. Typically I buy oil from the Cup Hill Farmers Market, but I haven't been in a little while, so I just bought this at Walmart. Trader Joe's. Costco. So, the Costco, you can get a pound of flour for less than $1, and it's organic, unenriched, unbleached, good stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna do a time lapse for the next part, but what I'll tell you is that I mix all the liquids first. So I'm gonna do my water, and then I will do, so I do everything before the flour. I will do water, I will do the salt, and I will mix the salt in so you can't even tell that it's there. Then I do honey, and then I will do my olive oil. And then once that's done, I'm gonna give it a whisk, and then I add my flour. And then I add my starter, whisk again, and then I will, those are raisins. And then I will show you what it kind of looks like when I add my starter, because it's a test. Okay, I forgot something. So, water. Okay, I used to, for the longest time, I would buy this water from Trader Joe's, and all I would do is bake with it. I don't drink it, I just would bake with it. What I have found is that I can just take, and the reason I do that is, number one, I don't feed my sourdough starter with cold water. And the only way for me to get tap water warm is for me to get it out of my refrigerator and then let it sit on the counter and kind of come to room temperature, which is now what I do. So just in advance, I will fill one of these Trader Joe's water bottles with the filtered water from my fridge. And that's what I will use as my water for this. It's not actually Trader Joe's water, caveat, but I did used to do that. So you can also do that. And the reason I do that is because tap water has so many hard minerals. It can make it hard for the yeast cultures to like really thrive. So you just want like pure, good, clarified water when at all possible. Okay, so this is another tool that I forgot to share with you earlier. It's a dough whisk, $7, Amazon, plus or minus, worth every penny. Get the metal one, not the wooden one. I had a wooden one before and it just came right out. It didn't last me very long. This one I can put in the dishwasher, which I love. Okay, so honey, olive, salt, and water is all mixed. Now, here is a test. This is called the float test. So if you want to make sure that your starter is ready, what you do is you take a little, I need a spoon. What? Okay, just a minute. So zero out your scale, so you know how much starter, you want about 300 grams of starter, but I'll show the recipe later. So anyway, just get a little spoonful, okay? And put this in your bowl. Now, you may or may not be able to see that, but it is floating in there. Okay, so you always want your starter to float. That is how you know it is ready to go. If it passes the float test, most of the time you're good to go. It should be strong and ready. It means there's enough air bubbles and that they're staying, the starter is strong enough that there are enough air bubbles that even when it's pulled apart, the air bubbles in the center still give it enough air to float. So, okay, moving on. I'm just gonna pour this whole thing in here essentially. Uh-oh, what happened? It's a little over 300. So that jar, this 16 ounce or this 32 ounce jar, technically it was not 32 ounces full, but yields about 300 grams. Now what I want you to see is, I'm going to show you how to feed this later, but this is how much I left in here. This is what I'm going to feed it from. Okay, not very much. You don't need a lot of remnant starter for it to be strong and for you to feed it and for it to be good next time. Okay, I'll explain that more later, but anyway, wanted you to see that. What's the matter, Sissy? Good job, Eleanor. Now, okay, let's see if I can. Yeah, probably not. Okay, it's floating. We're gonna stir. Okay.
What is in here?
We're making.
No.
It's not okay.
No.
Back up, please.
It's not
Excuse me.
okay.
All right, so I'm gonna bring you over here so you can see what this mixture kind of looks like. It's just like milky, right? And you can see the oil and all of that. So, okay, back up, please. Thank you. Well, we'll see the friends at church. These are for our friends at church. Okay, so
What's up there?
now I'm gonna zero this out. My scale's at 0, everything's on there, and then I'm gonna start pouring flour because that is our next step. Let's see. Probably I will scoop it first, and then I will pour. Almost done.
I'm doing the big one.
I'm doing the big one.
Almost there.
Okay. So now we have 1,000 grams of flour, and we stir. Okay. Okay, I heard you, babe. You don't have your, where's your stool? I'm gonna give this the initial stir because otherwise, even with tall walls, the flour still can go everywhere.
Let me do it.
Okay, stir, it's heavy, huh?
Let me do mine.
Okay, ready? I'm gonna get a big stir. Okay, so I'm gonna stir this, and then I will come back in just a minute and I will show you what it looks like in the next step. All right, so here is one of the sourdough terms that you'll hear. It's called a shaggy dough. This one really about did me in. My sister-in-law had to come. Well, she was planning on coming anyway, but the only reason I still make sourdough to this day is because my sister-in-law came and helped me understand what the dough should look like in each phase. So that's what I'm going to try to help you do. And I am, hear me, happy for you to come to be at my house so you can physically see it in person, but I'm going to show you in the camera. So this is a shaggy dough, okay? It is, you can see no dry flour. See, I don't know what focus this is in. Hi. You can see no dry flour, okay? It is, okay? By all means, it's kind of just shaggy, but it's wet, right? The whole thing is wet, okay? Now, the next thing that happens is what's called an autolyse. It helps the gluten develop before you do a stretch and fold, which I will also show you. This is kind of a ferment stage, but mostly it's so that the gluten can strengthen and it will start to become more pliable. Because right now this is, you pull it and it breaks, you pull it and it breaks. What you want is slowly but surely for you to pull it and it will stretch. So we're gonna leave this without this flying critter for 30 minutes. It's just gonna sit, hang out. I'm gonna cover it with plastic wrap and then we're gonna come back to it in 30 minutes and I will show you the magic of autolyse. Always, always, always make room for this step. So, okay, so it's been 30 minutes, been a little bit more than that because it's chaos at my house right now. But you can see it still looks like this. You just need a little bowl of water that you can get your fingers wet because it will stretch better with that. Just put your fingers in there. What's the matter, Eleanor? Okay. Okay, and this is gonna be our first stretch and fold. So you take one side and you pull it, look at that, okay? Flop it over on its next one. You spin it, okay? And you pull it up, and you flop it. This helps create bubbles. This helps the gluten development also, okay? Pull it up, I give it a little wiggle, flop, okay? And you do all four sides. I mean, it's a circle bowl, but 4 sides, right? Pull it up, down. And then this is not, I don't know if everybody does this. I always do this because I can't just leave it sitting like this. I then pick it up and try to shape, just a minute, babes. What's the matter? Shape it as best as I can into, okay, I'm done with this part. Shape it as best as I can. Look how much better that looks. It almost looks like dough, friends. So 6, 24, 5. So the next one I need to do, you're gonna do 4 of these 20 to 30 minutes apart. And then we'll talk about it after that. You can see I've stretched it 4 times, roughly 20-minute increments. This last one was a little longer, and this one went about 40 minutes instead of 30, but it's not a hard science. It's just at least 30 minutes and roughly 20 to 30 minutes between each time that you do a stretch and fold. And now I'm going to show you the window pane test, which inevitably you will come across when you are talking about sourdough and doneness. And so here it is. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're just going to take a chunk just like this, stretch it to the point where you can see light behind it. Now, this is hard to do because it's daytime, or it's, you know, I have the light going, but like, do you see how thin that is? And it's not breaking. That is what you're looking for. Okay, you could essentially see light through that. So that's perfect. This is how you know it's done. Your stretch and folds have worked. Your gluten development is wonderful. And you can see in the top, see all these little bubbles that are starting to form? That is what you want. They're all over the place. So now what you're gonna do is leave it to double. I am going to leave it out probably on my counter overnight, and because my home is cool at nighttime, it should probably double. It should get to the top of this, and then we will divide, shape, and then do a second rise. So this is called the bulk rise. So, okay. Okay, good morning, friends. This is a little overproof for what I like. I should have got up a little earlier and I checked it and it was fine, and then I think my heat turned on and now it's a little overdone. But here, so there's a poke test that you can do. It still springs back a little bit, which means it's not completely overproofed. It's fine. It's just more than what I like because I want it to rise more before I bake it. Another good sign is that this isn't really tearing. Sometimes when it's completely approved, it will tear and you lose the bubbles. And so right now I'm actually a little thankful that it's not really tearing. Like, this looks like it's gonna tear, but it's kind of sticking. Hours ago probably. So normally I would let it go about 9 to 10 hours max. Somebody's not sleeping through the night and I was tired, so I slept instead. So I'm gonna just one good wipe around my workspace. I got some dough here, but so this is just gonna help it not stick while I divide it. I'm gonna divide it into 3. So I'm gonna take butter and just really get these nice and coated. You just want to make sure they're all greased so that your dough doesn't stick anywhere. Get the outsides. And then you're going to do this for all 3. So that's done. Now, what you want to do with this is try to save as many bubbles as possible in this process. So you just kind of pour, and as you're going, this came with my KitchenAid mixer. It's probably my favorite dough extractor tool. but you can get them online. I have a little plastic one. This one's rubbery. This is more like silicone with a metal insert. Oh, this roll is so heavy. Or if you can't see, I'm trying. Okay. So hopefully you can see there's still these little bubbles. Good. Okay. Okay. So which is nice. It hasn't moved a ton. It's still holding a little bit of shape, which I'm thankful for. And so here's the difficult part of this is that now this has to be divided into 3 loaves, and you don't really have the option kind of to weigh it because you don't want to disturb the bubbles enough to like cut it again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of stretch it. I'm going to try to pull it so that it's kind of close to a square and all roughly the same kind of thickness. This is not a dough you want to like pat. You want to really gently just kind of pull and stretch it. Okay. So that's, you see all of that? Yeah, okay. So, let's see here. 1, 2, no, not quite right. 1, 2, it's pretty close. Okay, so I'm gonna start on this side because I'm just gonna pull it. So you're gonna cut into it and pull. And cut and pull. Okay, cut and pull. And now, you still see that? This is where people start to differ on how they do this. This is how I do this. I fold 1, and then I fold 2, and then I flip and roll, and flip and roll, and flip and roll. Okay. And you can see the goal is to really unify the dough and then give it some structure on the top so that it stays. And now if your shaping is into bouillets and you're not gonna put it into a sandwich, this is enough. And really for me, this is enough. It's just kind of good enough. Okay, and then I'm gonna set it in here. 1. Okay. And then I'm gonna do this twice more. Divide this in roughly half. Okay. Ooh. All right. So again, this is, I do the 1, 2, and then I start to flip and turn. Very gently. And you really want to preserve the bubbles. This is probably going to be a long video. Do you see that? Yeah, okay. So this one's definitely a little bigger, but that's all right. It's homemade sourdough, y'all. Doesn't have to be perfect. 1, 2, roll, roll, fold, fold. You really want as much as possible your bottoms to meet so that when they're in the baking process, the bottom of your dough doesn't come out like cracked. But It's not the end of the world if it's not perfect looking on the bottom either, but there you go. 3. Now, let's see if I can turn this up. You can see me. Hi. Can you see me? Yes. Okay. These just now need to rise to where they, let's see, this is my biggest one, fill the bowl and are just slightly above. At that point, you can preheat your oven and start to get ready to bake. That's the next step. So I'm just gonna cover these with saran wrap and let them rise a second time. Okay. Okay, so what you gotta know about feeding your starter is you really just need to feed it at least the volume that is currently in your jar or more, okay? So as you can see, there's not very much in here. This probably weighs, I don't know, 50 grams total, maybe, if I'm really stretching it, okay? It's not that much, but I'm gonna scrape down all the walls. I'm gonna scrape down all the walls, and then and don't worry about how messy it is, it doesn't really matter. Just get it all down there, and then I'm gonna feed it. I'll show you how much I'm gonna feed it, because I don't have an actual number. It's just kind of a, let's see, yeah. Okay, so scrape down the walls, get it all the way to the bottom, as much as is possible. It's not a science. This part's the art. Okay, so I take this out, lid. I feed my sourdough starter with rye and with einkorn. This is einkorn. This one I get at Tom Thumb. I also get this at Tom Thumb just because it's close to my house and I have it. I really only need the small bags. I don't need to buy these in big bulk when I don't have the space to store it, and 2, I just don't need it all that often. I probably buy these every couple of months maybe. So this is my 1/4 cup. I'm gonna feed this a little less than level of a 1/4 cup of rye, and then about the same amount of einkorn. Let's see, einkorn is a little, powder. This einkorn is very fine. So this is, it looks heaped, but there's like a chunk missing. So anyway, okay. So roughly a 1/2 cup, okay? And then I'm gonna take a little bit of what's left over from my water. So to make this recipe, it takes almost, what is this? This is a 33-ounce bottle. So about 33 ounces of water total to also feed and have enough to start your bread. So when I'm feeding this, I'm really just kind of looking for a consistency. You can look, and there's a lot of information about how to feed a starter. There's like the 1-1-1 ratio, there's 1-2-2. It just essentially means the amount of food, water, and flour to original yeast starter mix. I don't use a particular ratio, but what I do know is that the 1-1-1 ratio often, if you do like, if you have 50 grams of starter left over and then you feed it 50 grams of flour or organic matter, 50 grams of flour, and then 50 grams of water, often you will wind up with a weaker starter overall. I tend to probably do more like 1-1.5, 1.5, or 1-2-2, so that my starter always has more organic matter to eat than what is already there, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, I can just show you. That's really the best way for me to do it, is just kind of, it's an organism. Essentially, it's yeast, and the yeast needs food. And if you have 50 grams of yeast and then you only feed it 50 grams of food, yes, you gave it water, but the water is just is coagulant the right word? It's just something to allow them to move around in, viscosity. So I always feed it a little bit more than what is already there. Okay, So, and then because we already made our dough, this, let's see, I'm gonna add a little bit more water to this. Did you say hi, baby Oakland? Did you say hi to our friends? Did you say hi, Sissy? It was Tootin. Okay. So, this consistency, let's see, you can see, I don't know if this can focus, but it's like a very thick pancake dough, pancake batter. It's thicker than pancake batter, but not quite biscuits, or not quite, what else do I make that has more of a wet dough? I don't know, it's the best example I got. Anyway, that is fed. So your options are feed it like this and put it back in your refrigerator for a week to 10 days, sometimes up to 2 weeks, and then feed it again, or feed it, and if you know you're gonna bake again soon, just put it on your counter and then watch it rise. So I usually mark mine. I'm not gonna mark it now because I'm gonna put mine in the fridge, but I would mark it, and then you know when it's doubled, and then you can go from there. So you always want your starter to double when or more is great, but at least double is your goal. So kind of when you need this much starter, 300 grams is quite a bit. I start from just a little bit like this, and then I will feed that. And then you'll hear people talk about discard. What discard means is like, say this winds up and I fed it half the jar, well, it doubles and it's the whole jar. Well, I'm not gonna feed a whole jar's worth of food to make 2 jars worth of starter. I don't need that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna discard, which means take out and store half or so, sometimes more, and then I'm going to feed the remaining. And that's gonna be my starter, because essentially it's already eaten, can't really use it. You could feed it, but you need a lot of food to feed it. So I have a discard jar in my fridge that I use for, like, I put it in pancakes, I put it in biscuits, I make a pizza dough out of it. I put it in my fagaza bread. I mean, everything that I bake essentially gets sourdough discard in it. I feel like that part is a little tougher for most people. They don't fully understand like the discard thing, like what it's throwing it away, but it's not. I keep mine. So I can explain that more if that's something that you're kind of confused on, or you're like, what else can I do with it? There are lots of discard recipes online. I use Pinterest. It's probably my favorite place to find sourdough recipes, and also help. Some YouTube channels are pretty good. I couldn't give you one in particular that I loved, but again, my sister-in-law came and she really helped me a ton. So that's kind of what I wanted to do for you guys, is make this so you can see it, but then also create the invitation. If it would be more helpful for you to come over, for me to come to your house, happy to do that. Would love to, because this is fun. It's fun now that I figured it out. It was a little stressful for a while, but anyway. Okay, moving on.